Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you've been with us before, welcome to the channel. If this is your first time, I hope you're ready for a lot of spooky stuff today. We are Lealan Presents. I am Alan, one of your hosts. This is the other host. This is Leanne, my wife, my partner, my channel partner, whatever you want to call it. As you've already seen from the title card, this is our Halloween horror movie clash for the year 2023. We have done one of these previously in 2022. We'll put a card somewhere there if you wanted to go and check out that one, so you can see all the films that we watched for 2022 and sort of give our impressions of to decide which was the best horror film for 2022. Same thing goes with this one. This is part 2 of a 5-part series. Part 1 is already on the channel, obviously. Why would we be uploading part 2 instead of part 1 first? You know, that would be weird. I mean, it'd be different.
Maybe we should try that sometime.
No. That's a horror film in its own right. So what we'll do then is we'll put a card here as well, so you can go back and check episode 1 if you haven't already seen it. As such, I'm just going to flash up the bracket from part 1 now, so you can see which 4 films we watched. Oh, excuse me, in part 1. We're not going to put any of the other films in this until we get to the end of this video. We're not going to get any of the other 8 movies after this video is finished into the brackets until we've watched them, put them on the channel, basically.
They'll go on as we're talking about.
Yeah. So the way this works is we've got 16 movies in total, which we're going to watch in order of release for horror movies of 2023, which we have not seen. We've purposely not watched them in order to be able to do this series. That's our dedication to you guys. Some of these we wanted to watch for literal months.
Yes.
And we haven't, because we want to bring you guys some really nice content and do this kind of thing for you. So we're going to watch them in order of release, and we're going to give our impressions on 6 different topics. So they are spook/gore factor, story, sound, acting, villain, and visuals. So each of us will give different ratings, which obviously come to a full rating towards the end, which we're not going to give in this one. They will be done in the finale video instead. So as such, let's just straight into the first one then. So from the 7th of April, good date that, is The Pope's Exorcist starring Russell Crowe. So what I'm going to do is read out a brief synopsis for every film before we start talking about them, just so you can kind of get a gist if you haven't seen and or heard of the films. Inspired by the actual files of Father Gabriel Amorth, chief exorcist of the Vatican, The Pope's Exorcist follows Amorth as he investigates a young boy's terrifying possession and ends up uncovering a centuries-old conspiracy the Vatican has desperately tried to keep hidden. Rags is causing chaos behind the camera.
Yep, it's all good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pope's Exorcist, spook/gore factor.
Yes.
I did find this possibly could have been classed more as a thriller rather than a horror in some aspects. Although there was definitely...
It kind of peaked and troughed a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. There was a lot of action, I think.
Yeah.
There was some sort of horror stuff. There was some spooky elements, like the knocking on the door kind of thing. Yes, which
Shaving a haircut.
Whatever it was, mimicking the boy having done that knock to his sister.
It's ghost hunting thing, like that. Taps tends to use it.
Well, not originally. But
well,
yes.
no, yeah, but the Taps tends to use it.
Yeah, because then you get the response from the ghost from the other side. So that was a bit spooky.
Kind of gutted that. I should put a sound effect in that had supposed to react like.
Yeah, too late. There's definitely some gore.
Yeah.
Including just a completely exploding lady.
Yeah, that was wild.
Didn't expect that.
No. I've literally called that a blood explosion.
A blood explosion, yeah.
I didn't know how else to describe it, so blood explosion seems to fit quite well.
Yeah. So it's sort of the elements here and there that I would call like scary or gory.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a throughout thing, so it was quite a balance, which lends into that sort of thriller kind of look.
Yep. One thing I really enjoyed in this one, in terms of the spooky kind of, I guess it's technically not spooky, but I love a storm in a horror film.
Yeah.
It kind of charges that energy in the air.
Yeah.
And it makes it feel more spooky.
Yeah,
it really does.
Atmosphere.
Yeah. The text on the body when he was being scratched into the boy, I thought was really well done.
Yeah.
It looked real.
Yes.
It didn't just look like some fake CG stuff that was drawn on. It looked convincing.
Yeah.
You know, which I thought was really cool. Again, blood explosion.
Blood explosion.
Obviously.
Yes.
There was nothing else really. And I wouldn't say there's much in terms of spookiness, apart from the knocking and the couple of voices here and there. We'll get to the audio after.
Yeah.
Obviously. But I don't think you needed any more gore or any spookiness to it. I thought it was kind of well rounded out in that sense.
Yeah. Amazing. Story. Really engaging.
Yeah.
It wasn't your typical exorcism movie. Oh no, have you noticed something in your notes?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, I forgot I wrote that down.
There's also some comedy which was just like breaks that
Yeah,
tension.
the Exorcist priest was quite.
It's humorous.
He's quite nonchalant about a lot of stuff, which was quite nice.
So he was saying the devil hates jokes, so it sort of even explained why there was comedy in it, which was, I thought, quite refreshing.
And it was nice to see that from Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Again, I'll come into the acting, but...
Yes. Relatable characters and a relatable concept initially.
Yeah.
And then the overarching kind of thing which you... Oh, spoilers, by the way. The overarching...
Should have prefaced it. That's
reveal, I suppose, where you get the links with the Spanish Inquisition, and it just adds that whole extra dimension to the story, meaning it's not just an exorcism. There's a whole extra dimension. I'm repeating myself. You know. It's good.
But Leanne, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. That is exactly what I wrote down as soon as it popped up.
Yeah, fair enough. And we didn't.
No. One thing I did feel kind of took away from the story a little bit was the Pope being affected, even though he was like hundreds of miles away.
Yeah, but didn't you know the Pope has superpowers?
And then puking blood.
Super Pope.
Blood poking, puking Pope.
I suppose.
I felt that was a bit weird, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit in that sense.
It didn't really add anything, did it?
No.
That's fair.
I liked the Spanish Inquisition thing. I thought that was really cool. And the sort of twist that Satan took a priest himself, took over a priest, and he was the sort of the head of the Spanish Inquisition. I thought that was really cool. There was some really good moments in there, and I don't really want to go into all of them, but. Yeah, no, I thought it was good.
Excellent.
I thought it was good. The one thing I did put was they obviously tied the kid to the bed.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if he's an all-powerful demon, why can he break the bonds? And I literally wrote it down. I looked up and then he went. I was like,
fair enough.
Never mind. Literally, never mind. Look.
You spoke too soon.
Yeah.
Cool. It was listening.
What was it? We must save this child as well. I thought there was a bit of disconnection. We must save this child. It wasn't. We must save their son. Or like when it was the two priests and the woman and the sister, the mother and the sister were there, and it wasn't, oh, we must save your son. It was, we must save this child. That kind of pulled me out a bit of it as well, because it's like, this is their child. Yeah. It's not just a child. This is their offspring. This is her sister, her brother.
With a bit more sensitivity.
Yeah. But
that's in the script writing a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Sound.
Yeah.
Demon voice.
Oh, superb.
Always good.
Superb.
Love a good demon voice.
Superb. I love that. That was great.
You do get similar voices for a lot of demon-related films, but yeah, it was.
This one felt punchy though. It felt really punchy.
Okay. I didn't notice a difference myself, but I guess I haven't watched enough to be able to compare.
Yeah.
The knocks, use of the knocks worked well, and the changes in volume and direction and everything was really effective. The soundtrack was great. Yeah. And the use of changing the volume and tone to match when the boy took his headphones off, so you really felt
that
like
was really
you were
sweet.
from his perspective.
Yeah.
Listening to it from his ears.
Yeah, you pretty much covered everything I put on mine. Like the only
That's
thing
what
you
you
didn't.
get for having me go first.
The only thing you didn't count was the other sound effects, like the breaking of rocks and the gates and all the little nuances. Yeah. Like when he's rattling the gate and it's locked. They didn't just go like just stock sound. It sounds like they kind of went there to this set and actually recorded the sound with a boom mic and put. And I just felt it added a lot more to it, and I thought it was really well done. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's great soundscaping. acting.
Yeah.
I haven't written much because it was just real good.
Yeah.
I didn't find anything to complain about with the acting, even the children.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. Like the boy doing the motions of the demon, and then obviously having them dub over, that can look janky a lot of the time, but this didn't.
No.
And I think a lot of the time they didn't really, when he was talking, they would focus, but then you carry on talking, they would focus on the priest instead.
Yeah.
So you're kind of taking away that kind of element. So you're not really showing light to the boy who can't lip sync to whatever was recorded, if that was recorded first or vice versa, you know.
So
and
he
I thought
just
it was really cool.
had to do well in small moments.
Yeah.
Which he did.
Yeah. And again, like you said, with Russell Crowe, fantastic actor, superb actor, really good serious actor, but interspersing these jokes into it, kind of show that lighter side, which I really liked.
And very realistically.
Yeah.
It
wasn't forced.
Yeah, it
didn't feel forced. But yeah, and I literally put changing as a whim is superb, because that's exactly what he did. But yeah, all great all round. But there wasn't anything that really I've not given it full marks, because there wasn't anything that was like, oh yeah, fantastic. Russell Crowe would be up there, but we already know Russell Crowe is a fantastic actor. I would have liked to have seen one of the daughter or the mother kind of really bump up into that next level, but they didn't quite get there. Not to say it was bad, they didn't put anything bad into the film, but it wasn't enough to kick it up to that top mark, you know?
Alright. Next. Villain.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like too far off your usual possession demon from other films. The thing that I think gave this a bit more of a depth was the backstory and finding out that this demon has been around for a long time, and he's one of the fallen angels, and has basically caused the Spanish Inquisition. So kind of added that extra element to it. So yeah, it was more interesting. Yeah. They could have just left it as a regular demon possessing the kid, but they'd made more of an effort. Yeah,
very manipulative demon, which I thought was really good. It wasn't just let me out of here, he was kind of trying to manipulate everything in the whole thing in the scenario, and then showing obviously the sins and the weaknesses, which I thought was really great, and it was just the right amount of it as well. The visuals of when the boy, and it kind of...
Are we jumping to visuals?
No, it's still with the demon, but it's kind of when the demon takes up more of a hold and the face starts sort of malforming a bit more, and that you could tell it was a dummy in some bits, and it was like, oh, okay.
I've written that as well.
And that kind of pulls you away from that believable demon at that point, so that's why I put it into the villain bit, because it's more about establishing the villain and not so much the villains at that point. And it kind of pulls you away a little bit. It's like, oh, that just looks like an auton, like a plastic doll from Doctor Who,
or prosthetics or something. Yeah. Well, which leads us nicely into visuals, because I had written about the obvious when the face was deformed. You could tell it wasn't real. I don't know, it's a film, it's fiction, but you could make it look real.
You've got to have that believability still.
Yes.
You don't want to be sat in a cinema in the middle of a film going and watching. It's like that meme you see with the horse being drawn at different stages. Like you've got a fantastic half of the film, and all of a sudden they run out of budget, and it's just plasticine figures instead, and it's like,
yeah, a little bit.
That's kind of what it. I'm not saying it felt like that, but it was to that kind of feeling.
Yeah,
that it kind of pulled you out a little bit.
In comparison to other effects like the blood explosion, which was crazy good. I don't know how they did that. Maybe CGI, but it worked. And where the girl's head twists all the way around, that looked amazing. I don't know how they did that. And like you were talking about with the writing showing up on the boy's stomach, looked real. So it's that juxtaposition.
They just kind of dropped the ball with that dummy a little bit.
That one bit. But other than that, I really enjoyed the visual aspect.
The only other thing that I felt let it down a little bit was when she was doing the crabs dance at the beginning. That looked a bit janky when she was going up the wall. It was like, you can tell that's not real. It was like that. It was like, it just looked too CGI-ish.
Fair enough.
Because it was obviously CGI with that one, and it looked a bit weird. The eye effect though was great. Like when he was with the lighter and he was doing that, and the eye, the second pupil popped over, and I was like, ooh, that's good.
Creepy.
I like that. I do like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Anything else to say about this one?
I really enjoyed this film.
It was great.
I would recommend this one. It's good.
Cool. This particular episode is a bit of a mixed bag.
Oh, that's weird.
Second film for this episode then, released on the 14th of April 2023, is Renfield. Okay, so again, we'll read the little blurb written by Universal Pictures. In this modern monster tale of Dracula's loyal servant, Renfield, the tortured aide to history's most narcissistic boss is forced to procure his master's prey and do his every bidding, no matter how debased. But now, after centuries of servitude, Renfield, can't read today apparently, is ready to see if there's a life outside the shadow of the Prince of Darkness. If only he can figure out how to end his codependency. The end.
It's very different from Pope's Exorcist, that's what I'll say. In terms of spook and gore factor, not a scary film.
No.
At all.
Not by a long shot. I should probably preface this with it's a horror comedy.
Horror comedy. So not scary, but boy is it gory. Oh. There's like arms being pulled off and used as weapons, there's blood everywhere.
They impale people with these severed arms. Like, what?
It's crazy. Like not like believable gore,
no.
But you've also got supernatural powers, so it's fine. They're really gory, not scary, but the gore just like lifts it back up.
Yeah. In the beginning, when they sort of trap Dracula in that circle and the priest explodes.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, this is the kind of film we're watching. They kind of set that up right in the first sort of 5-10 minutes, which is really cool. It wasn't shy. Crazy amount of gore in places. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
In some bits with some of the kills.
Brutality.
It was like, fatality, brutality, that kind of stuff, you know. It wasn't, as you said, it wasn't really scary parts, but the gore factor was like, they've kind of gone, okay, how loud can we go with the gore? 8, 9, 10, 20.
Yeah.
There we go.
Pretty much.
That does it.
Good. All right then. Story.
Yep.
More than I expected.
Yep.
It's a Dracula story.
Yeah.
Of course. It's a gang story. A crime story, like buddy cop almost.
It's a revenge story.
Revenge story. It's also a very human story. I mean, he's going to therapy groups pretty much.
He's lonely.
Yeah.
All of us get lonely at times.
Lonely and codependent.
Yep.
So it's like all these different elements, and
everyone has toxic relationships in their lives.
Somehow it wasn't too much. It all like knit in together really well, and sort of gave more opportunity for the comedy, I suppose. So it's a little bit nuts, but I can't.
A little bit. It's a lot bit nuts.
A lot bit nuts, and I loved it.
They did sort of take it to a whole new level. With I can't read my writing. It's fine. Like when I did one particular bit I really loved was Dracula when he finds out that Renfield's obviously trying to break away and whatnot.
Yes.
And he goes to find him and he finds the apartment.
Yeah.
And he sort of bashes open the door, or I think Renfield opens the door, whatever. I can't remember.
Yeah, Renfield opens the door. He sat at the table.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So he opens the door. He goes in. He's like, "How did you get in?" And he just kind of pans down to the mat and it says, "Welcome, come on in." Because you can't have a vampire in your house unless you invite it in. But there's this doormat thing coming in, and it's like, that's genius.
Amazing.
Genius, absolute genius writing. Took a bit of a twist as well when they're teaming up with the crime family.
Yes.
Like, Dracula needs that many servants. Like, oh, he's taking over the world. Yeah, he's going to need them.
Oh, he's not at full power yet.
Yeah, and the pacing, I don't think it was a dull moment. It was like, boom, 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 boom. But it didn't feel, it's too much.
Yeah, it wasn't overwhelming. No. Some of those booms were sat in a group talking to people about their codependency problems.
And when the credits did roll, it did say, I think it was a story written by Robert Kirkman, which was like, oh, well, that makes sense. The writer of the Walking Dead comic books wrote this, so that absolutely makes sense. Robert Kirkman, phenomenal writer.
It did feel like a comic book story.
It kind of did, yeah. It kind of did.
Like glorified comic book story. That's great.
I thought it was brilliant.
I really enjoyed this film. Sound?
Yeah.
Not a lot to note. Splat sounds. A lot of splats because there was a lot of blood and stuff. I had nothing to complain about, but also not a lot to note. As standoutish.
I thought it was good throughout. The only downside was there was nothing that sort of stood out, as you say. There wasn't anything that was like, "Oh, that was a good use," or "That was good," or "The soundtrack was good," or "The score." There was none of that, unfortunately. It was just all kind of got shuffled into each other almost.
Yeah.
Although saying that, when the all the thing was happening, if there wasn't any dialogue, there wasn't any dialogue washout. It didn't get overpowered, so the mix was really well done.
Yeah, that's very true. Nice. Acting.
Yep.
Similar in the sense that I couldn't know any faults.
Yeah.
But with this cast, I don't think I'd expect anything less.
I mean, you got Nicolas Cage, you got Tom Holt, and you've got Awkwafina.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other, like Ben Schwartz is always funny. There's just a lot of, not like massive names, but those.
Well, they blew all the budget on Nick Cage and Tom Holt.
Pretty much.
Or Nicholas Holt, well, not Tom Holt.
So yeah, I mean, excellent.
Yeah,
nothing exactly standing out specifically, but just a really excellent showing from everyone.
I've got no bad performances at all, because there wasn't. Nicolas Cage's as crazy Dracula is my new favourite thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
Just the looks.
And Awkwafina, I find that something she's been in, she's been a bit like over the top. But this, she kind of tempered it down, or whether it was the script, I don't know, but she didn't feel that way in this one. And Holt obviously was fantastic. You know, Beast from X-Men, he was Tolkien. I thought it was a really good job all around by everyone. But again, nothing really, apart from Nick Cage, but I'm not going to sort of put that in there because Nick Cage has been around for decades and he's such a great actor.
Does Nick Cage ever do anything that doesn't stand out? No. It's Nick Cage. Awesome. Villain. I mean, there's quite a few. So you've got obviously Dracula as the villain, your classic Hammer horror kind of villain, and he did really well at portraying that classic Dracula thing, but also like getting with the times and getting like joining forces with a gang. Yeah, why not? But it's also the element of him being the abusive ex in a sense. And then you've got the gangster boss lady who was very villainous.
That voice is instantly recognisable.
Yeah. She
Forget her name.
Excellent. Another villain character. And also the villain of your own self-worth. Renfield's own like belief in himself and his past demons and guilt, which it all just worked really well. So yeah, lots of villains. The main one being Dracula. Yeah. And he was just Nicolas Cage. So.
Yeah, I did kind of go down the track that Dracula was the main one because he's kind of the cause of everything. So even though Renfield sort of, as you say, the doubt, the loneliness,
plays a factor.
That Dracula is the main influence on that. Yes. So I put that as the main Dracula. And like, if I'd read this on a page on a script, I would have looked at it and thought, this Dracula doesn't really work. But you stick Nicolas Cage in the role, and he makes it work.
Yeah.
When it really shouldn't, but it does. It's like he's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
He's very cunning. He's very conniving, and he's very eccentric. Whereas I feel that the original, I haven't seen the original Draculas, but I feel that he would be a bit more reserved.
Yeah.
And a bit more tempered, as opposed to being like, ha, you know. Yeah. And I thought it was a great new take because it's like you can take. Like, I haven't seen the Tom Cruise, The Mummy, which they did the reboot of that, but I heard it wasn't good. And you take a classic Universal monster like Dracula, The Mummy, Frankenstein, whatever, and you put them into a film and you give it a new twist, and it's either gonna sink very well or it's just gonna bomb. And this definitely sank. Floated rather.
I was going to say something was wrong with that.
Yeah, floated. I meant not sunk. Yeah, floated, and they definitely floated, and he flew up off of the water.
Yeah, it was really well done. All right then, and visuals.
Yep.
The opening scene where it's in the past and it's like the smaller screen and it's black and white. Like obviously old look. Yeah. Real good. Yeah. Love that. The just throughout the gore, it was alright. There was some bits where when it was a lot of blood, it sort of looked a bit too red, perhaps.
A bit too plasticky.
Yeah, so you obviously knew it was fake blood. I know it's fake blood, it's a film. But you know what I mean. Stop being rude about it. So it's maybe a bit over the top in some places. But it sort of, at the same time, kind of works for how silly this film's meant to be anyway. So it's not a big complaint.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing. The first 5 minutes is your visual feast, quite literally. And it's like, ooh, this. I didn't quite know what to expect going into this. And it was like, okay, they set this up. They've got this whole sort of 5, maybe 10 minutes where it was the beginning, as you say, with the vampire hunters. And it's like, oh, wow, they've done a really good job with this with the budget. Like, I don't know what the budget was, but they must have thrown a lot of money at it.
Yeah.
And as you say then, some of the is almost some non-polished almost effects. Yeah. And there's a bit too much on the screen. I did like the lighting in some of the places as well, the way they would green highlights and red highlights in certain places. I thought that accented things really quite nicely as well.
Yeah. I did also like the different stages of Dracula's kind of recovery.
Yes.
He had very different facial looks as he gets more skin.
Yeah, as he's feeding and growing his strength.
So that was really good.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I really enjoyed
it. Yeah. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did.
No, it was good.
Okay, let me just take a quick drink.
Yes.
Okay, next up, just a literal week later, on the 21st of April, something on another very different track, Evil Dead Rise. So, again, going to the synopsis. Moving the action out of the woods and into the city, Evil Dead Rise tells a twisted tale of two estranged sisters, played by Sutherland and Sullivan, whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. Yeah.
Alright, spook/gore factor. Ooh, there's a lot of gore. That was just blood-filled elevators.
I like we just kind of talked about Renfield. Obviously, a lot of that was CGI.
Yes.
I get the feeling Evil Dead was mostly practical effects.
I think so.
I think the Evil Dead series is known for practical effects.
Yeah, I feel like they should. There a lot of tension as well.
Yeah.
Never quite knowing sort of where the villain's going to pop up from next, kind of thing. And body horror. There was eye stuff.
Oh yeah, that got really close. Yeah.
Ooh, I had to close my eyes. I
thought
really
you
did.
might have, yeah.
I couldn't look.
It didn't actually happen, but yeah.
No, I sort of knew it wasn't
so
gonna, but when
close.
it's that close, yeah. But yeah, yeah. So that was fun for me. No jump scares, but that's good. Yeah, I mean, it was what you needed from an Evil Dead film.
Yeah.
In terms of scariness and gore.
In terms of the gore, they obviously they weren't sparse with it, but I do felt it was a bit more timid than the remake that they did from 2013.
Yeah.
It's because there's that whole famous story where they sort of took it to the censor board, the Evil Dead remake or recall, or whatever you want to call it. And they were like, okay, UK 15, there we go, and they went, we'll be back.
Hold my beer.
We'll be back. They dumped bucket loads more of blood stuff into it, and they got that 18 rating. They wanted to aim for that 18 rating. I thought it was great.
What's the rating on this one?
I don't actually know.
Croissants.
So I 15. 15. Yeah. So it's harder to get an 18 these days.
Yes.
They didn't waste any time. We're getting straight to the gore. The first 5-10 minutes, where the demon fish shows herself and she grabs the girl's hand, just rips her scalp straight off, and it's like, okay, so they're sticking with that. Cool, awesome. Just going straight into it, which is great.
Drone to the face. Ooh, cheese grated to the leg was that was a pretty bad one.
Yeah, cheese grater. Yeah.
Didn't cause as much damage as I expected, but I felt it.
Yeah, the thing is, a cheese grater is something you find in a normal home. A chainsaw, not so much. Someone's cut someone with a chainsaw, you're like, oh, that looks nasty, but I can't relate. But I guarantee you, everyone's at least once caught themselves on a cheese grater and thought, ah, damn it. Now imagine that on a leg. Yeah, exactly. And there was a lot, as you say, there's a lot of spooky factors. One particular one that stuck out to me was when she was crawling out of the vents.
Yes.
So the other sister was there listening to that record, the vinyl, and you just see her in the background crawling out of that vent, and it was like, oh god, that's oh.
Yeah,
ooh,
creepy.
It's a bit spidery, I don't like that. But they certainly weren't sparse with the gore or tension.
No, and throwing up bugs. And
yeah,
it's all in there.
Yeah, eating glass, that was bad.
Ooh.
Oh, that was awful.
It looked so real.
And she swallowed it, you'd see it go into...
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel it. So yeah, I mean, pretty...
I think we're going to have to go an 18 rating on this video.
Alright, story.
Yeah.
I felt like the characters were really fleshed out.
Yes.
But without dropping too much exposition.
Yeah.
It was quite
It kind of came natural, yeah.
You kind of felt like you knew this family just from a few brief glimpses into their interactions, which is really good. It sometimes can be difficult to place the kind of artifact of a flesh created book into a place where there's going to be people. But the way they kind of explained
in the woods, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, a cabin in the woods, anything could be there. But in an apartment block, but the way they explained it, with it previously had been in a bank, and the earthquake, which was probably supernatural anyway.
I was thinking that myself.
Opening the vault where it's been hidden away. And that first record that the kid plays, which sort of explains how and why there is a recording of the words being spoken. So I think really well sort of thought out without bringing you out of the spookiness.
I can't remember the name of this book, but it's not the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. It was something else, because he said on the record vinyl there was 3 books.
And this definitely wasn't the normal one.
It wasn't the Necronomicon.
It wasn't a face. It was something else.
Teeth. Which was nuts.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's in visuals.
Anyone on that one?
No, you got anything for that one?
So, the previous films, Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, technically Army of Darkness, and the requel, they all kind of take place in the woods.
Yes.
Or for Army of Darkness in the past, where there's obviously like wooded areas and there's like but it all sort of stems from that nature kind of thing.
Yeah.
Putting it in a city is a bold choice.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're going to the city? What the hell are they doing with this? They're going to wreck it. They're going to ruin it. And they didn't. They made it feel isolated by saying the building was condemned. It was being destroyed the week after. Most of the residents already moved out, apart from a sort of small handful. And I felt that was a good way to make everything feel very isolated.
Yeah. The lift was scary. The stairs were gone.
Yeah. Well, after the earthquake,
the fire escape is through an abandoned flat that's locked.
Yeah, which was great. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, why can't you kick the door in? But these doors are solid. They're heavy doors. They were old-fashioned doors. Well, no, they're old-fashioned doors. Yeah. Doors used to be made differently. They're not like paper these days, you know? But yeah, no, I thought that was really good. And it kind of stood out with that as well, I thought, because you go into the jungle, into the city rather, like an urban jungle, and it's easy to get lost in that. Like Predator 2, I really enjoy Predator 2, but it's nothing like someone stalking you when there's noises all around you from other animals as well. You know, it's you're out of your comfort zone. Yeah. But this is very much rooted in the comfort zone, but also isolated. Again, I thought that was great. But yeah, some nice early setup as well, with the keys. The lift was closed. Rude. The lift was doing this with the doors all the time.
Yes.
And then obviously the sister and one of the surviving children runs into the lift, and the daughter looks down and she's like, oh, picks up some keys, and that was blocking the door from closing. You know, which I thought was really good. Yeah.
And the other thing that's come to me just now is having that. You had that group of really helpful neighbours, like they're going to come to the rescue. They were gone.
They get brutalised.
They were so quick.
Yeah.
They didn't do much.
No. The cold open as well. The way they did the cold open, there's like one day earlier, and I'm like, okay, all the way through the film, I was like, where does that come in? And then right at the end, it sort of pays off, and like, oh, okay, cool.
None of these characters were in the cold open.
Yeah, which is really cool. I like the way they did that.
Yeah, definitely.
But then we kind of head back to the woods in that sense, because he was out in like a lake or whatever it was.
Back to nature. Amazing soundtrack. Soundtrack was good.
Yeah.
Expected ominous tones.
Yes.
The demon voice effects, really good. Really enjoyed those, and as well the sort of sound coming from the vinyl through those old-looking speakers with that distortion, and then you're not quite sure if it's demon sounds or just the distortion from the vinyl, because having to manually turn it because it's playing slow otherwise.
The different speed,
so that it's going to be distorted, but then it's still got that extra sinister tone to it.
It's difficult to keep that going at an exact pace for a length of time.
Yeah, so really good sound design on this.
Yeah, I said the same. The incantation sounded great. The priest talking was great. The vinyl through the panel. All the sort of the bones snapping, the glass crunching, all the blood sounds, just superb. I couldn't find a single fault.
Nope.
The music stingers are all great. There was nothing necessarily memorable about it, but it was all. It didn't feel disjointed. It was all part and parcel of the entire package.
Yeah.
Like some horror films, they'll put a stinger in slightly the wrong place. It's like, oh, that pulls you out of it a little bit. This had none of that.
No.
It was just boom, 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 hitting all the cues right where it should.
It's exactly what it needed. Yeah, definitely. Acting, no complaints.
Yep.
In particular, what stood out for me was the mother / demon. Done really well. Just the facial expressions and the movement and the way she talks
that unnatural
as well.
looking smile, that really wide smile is like. Oof.
Yeah, really good, and such a contrast to how she was when she wasn't possessed.
Dyeing her hair. Yeah. The only one that sort of let me down for me, there were the two. The younger daughter she's really young. She's obviously cutting her teeth and acting, and some of it felt a bit like, I don't know if she's really into it. I'm not quite sure she's in that moment.
Okay.
It kind of felt like she wasn't quite portraying all of the emotion that she probably could have. But again, she's quite young, so I'm not going to really criticize that. The one thing that did get me was the boy, when they knocked the door and asked the girl if they wanted to come and watch the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And then she shuts the door and she's looking through the keyhole, and he's like,
oh yeah.
And it's like, but he's also the one that swallowed the eyeball.
Yeah.
And that looked janky as hell. Like when he's like, and it looked really bad. It was like, oh, that's the only bad acting in that film, was those two little bits. And it's the same actor. Like,
that's such a shame.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
But everyone else was great.
Yeah. Amazing. The villain, I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Evil Dead villain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's that abstract thing. You never actually see if it has a form of its own, because it's sort of zoomed through with the camera view.
Yeah.
And all you see of it is when it's in someone. But having that abstract, like I said with some of the films in part 1, where the villain stops being scary when you understand it, and you never understand the Evil Dead villain.
We're 5 movies in and 3 TV series as for Evil Dead, and we still don't know what they are.
The most
Not
we
properly.
got about it was when the sisters playing the last final, to find out if there's a way to defeat it, and they're saying there's no way to defeat it. All it wants is chaos. It feeds on it.
Yeah.
Lives on chaos. So that's sort of the only real explanation we've got as to what it is and what it wants. Which is, it makes it harder to predict what it's going to do, where it's going to strike. So I think all good.
Visceral and brutal. A mother trying to kill the kids, that's probably one of the worst things you can imagine in anything. Like if my mother came out with a knife, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing, before smacking her in the face? Hi, Mum.
This is how we find out whether she's actually watching this.
I've got something else written down, but I can't make it out. So.
All right.
Oh when all the body parts sort of all come together towards the end, that felt a bit forced. I wasn't keen on that.
I've put that in visual.
Yeah, but like the idea of the villain, because it's a progression of the villain as well.
Yeah, that's
because obviously the mother's had her arm blown off with a shotgun, she had her leg blown off with a shotgun, she can't chase her down anymore. So the 2 kids come in with all the body pieces, and they start. It reminds me of the kaiju in Pacific Rim Uprising, where they kind of merge into one, and it kind of looked like that, and it's like.
Yeah, it doesn't look not very practical.
I kind of feel they went, John Carpenter's thing is what we're aiming for. How do we get there?
Yeah. Whereas what they could have done is transfer the main demon into one of the kids instead.
Don't have the boy resurrect yet. Have that demon then come out of the woman, or the deadite rather, come out of the woman into the boy. Yeah. He becomes the new alpha. Yeah. I felt that would have been a better way to do it. But then how do you get multiple deadites into a wood chipper at the end, I guess?
Very true. So I guess again leading quite nicely into visual. Yeah. But I'm not so sure about what I've termed Limsy. Limsy.
Yeah. I got
like
wasn't that great?
A lot of the visuals were great.
Yeah.
But that final sort of
creature,
it looked it looked from the past.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been done better now, or maybe different decisions could have been made. But for me, I think that was the only visual thing that was a bit of a miss. Yeah. The opening scene with the usual sort of going through the person. Yeah. And then it turns out it's a drone and it's a fake out.
That was cool.
Loved it.
Yeah, that was cool.
The opening title bit where after this cold open, you've got the first deadite that we see rising out of the lake and floating over it, and then above the hills the titles just rise up.
I think it was trees, wasn't it? I think it was tree line.
It was a tree line.
But then you also had that reflected in the water as well, which was really cool.
So like it was really there.
Yeah.
So that looked great. The apartment building that they're stuck in is dark and eerie looking. The electrics aren't great, and it just makes it look really good. And the gore effects, like we've touched on already, like the eating glass just looks real. A lot of it, the eye being bitten out.
Oh, that was
pretty good.
Not quite sure how that works, but yeah.
Well, you gotta get
just
right
chomp
in there.
And then just like suck really hard.
Must be.
And then bite it off, I guess.
I don't want to think about it too much, to be honest. But yeah, really good visuals apart from Lindsay.
Yeah. I like the
Lindsay
bathtub.
Lohan.
I like the bathtub effect when they're trying to obviously put the mother in there, thinking she's got a fever, and it's kind of the water's bubbling and she's flown up, and then she's kind of her hands and legs is kind of coming around the corners, and that looked really cool and very twisted and contorted almost, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, great all around. I think the one thing I would criticise apart from Lindsay.
Yes.
Is that a lot of horror films is that they tend to be quite dark, so a lot of the details get missed.
Yes, that's true.
So some of the effects you might not get the full effect of them because it's too dark.
Yeah, good point.
You know, I think that was the only thing that really got it. Like when she took the guy's eye out, all you see was the black gaping hole. Like, okay, great, awesome. You could have had.
Was gone.
Yeah, but you could have had like a string of the optic nerves hanging down.
Yeah.
And like, why wasn't it bleeding loads? You know, there's some bits where like, sometimes I feel that horror films go a bit too dark, and it's not quite the right way to do it. It is obviously, the thing is, a lot of fear comes out of what you cannot see because your mind starts playing your imagination through. When you're engaged in a film like that, I feel you need to see more to get more of a reaction.
Yeah, because the horror's in the gore at this point of the movie.
Especially with something like Evil Dead, yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
No, I really enjoyed it. It was good. I think on form for an Evil Dead film.
Yeah. Cool. So that was the 4th of our April movies. It's a shame we didn't have another one in the sort of January through March to be able to get a full April episode. But hey, so we had to wait nearly a month and a bit, or well, we would have if we'd been watching them as they come out, for the next film, which was July 2nd, and it's The Boogeymen. So again, reading from the synopsis. Still reeling from the tragic death of their mother, a teenage girl and her younger sister find themselves plagued by a sadistic presence in their house and struggle to get their grieving father to pay attention before it's too late. Oops, just dropped my phone now.
Alright. Spook / gore.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to be different on this.
Yeah.
Because this is the kind of film that gets me.
You jumped quite a bit with this one.
This gets me. It's jump scares done pretty well in my opinion. It's the fear of the dark, which is such a visceral thing and such a common thing. You can't escape from darkness.
No. It's inevitability.
Yeah, and it sort of takes you back to being a kid and thinking there might be monsters under your bed, and it's playing on that. This is the kind of thing that might keep me up at night. So I've put this quite high on my...
So no sleep for Leanne tonight, huh?
My spook gauge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was some decent scary scenes. Like when it sort of barrels out of the closet and into the girl. I thought that was really well done. But there's obviously no real gore.
No.
To speak of. And I felt that it was over-reliant on jump scares. Like, jump scares done right are okay.
Yes.
I don't mind a jump scare when it's done right, but it's the overusage of them like this did. But when it wasn't doing the jump scare bits, when you're sort of seeing those two dots, and you're looking in the background in the darkness to try and see if there's something there, that I liked.
Yeah.
I really liked that, because that's the psychological kind of thing. You kind of like, it's almost like even if there's nothing there, you're looking at it and you're like, there's something there, I can see it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like your brain's playing that sort of psychological trick on you with the horror aspect of it. Yeah. And I like that. It just, they went a bit too hard with the jump scares for me.
Fair enough. So just after we finished watching this film, I'd gone upstairs, started coming down the stairs in the dark. All I see at the bottom, 2 points of light. There's Rags sat at the bottom of the stairs with glowing eyes.
Well, you would get a cat. You would make it a black cat.
So yeah. Okay. Story. We have definitely seen this trope before. This has been done a lot, I feel like. The monster on the bed, the monster in the closet.
Let me interject, right? So, what's the common thread, apart from the monsters and that in the closet and under the bed, what's the other common thread with a lot of other horror film tropes?
Something that moves in the dark.
Kids.
Well, yeah.
Who's a really bad trope for kids in horror movies and books? Stephen King. This is based on a Stephen King book.
Of course it is.
So my literal thing is Stephen King, here we go. WTF is with the kids.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of cliche and a lot of stuff we've seen before.
Yeah.
but it was still quite well written. And I think the script was good as well. So
yeah, the script was decent, to be fair. There was no real backstory or exposition of the boogeyman, which you're probably going to say is a good thing, but I would have liked a little bit more.
Yeah, the most we got was, I think it's been here forever.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, yeah. And it feeds on people's emotions, like weakened emotions, emotional states.
Feeds on the weak and the vulnerable.
Yeah. The other thing that really got me, which was really dragged the score down, is when she gets the call from the woman, the wife of the husband who killed himself.
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I know how to kill it. Come over, we'll get it together, or whatever it was she said.
Yeah.
So she goes to the house. She gets there. She gets her head slammed in the wall, and she's tied up in this thing.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Great. Awesome. That was great. Obviously, they do the trap and the shotgun shells and that kind of stuff. Great. Awesome. So then the shotgun goes off as the boogeyman's not dead. So the other woman's she goes to shoot it again, and the shell hits the water pipe and it breaks. So she's like, boom, right, okay. So then she's on the floor and she's like this. She's still got the cable ties on her. It's like, get rid of these cable ties. She shoots the boogeyman, and a bit of shell literally pierces the cable tie. And I'm like, no,
I didn't clock that. I thought she was like breaking it on her legs.
You wouldn't be able to.
You can.
I don't know.
You can break it on your legs.
Maybe
I've seen
I
it
missed.
on the internet.
But no, you have to have the proper tension with that, though. And
true.
she was on her back. You wouldn't get the tension on it. For me, it looked like the shotgun, and it hit, because obviously she was aiming at the boogeyman, the other woman, and it looked like a bit of the shell must have gone, and it, because I think it was, I don't know, maybe I saw it, because that part was very dark.
Yeah, it was.
And again, going back to, and the boogeyman is obviously a part of the darkness, but you can use more light in bits like this.
Yeah.
You know, don't make it so dark you can't see anything. It's like Game of Thrones, right? The episodes on Game of Thrones where the White Walkers are attacking Winterfell. Everyone complained about it being so dark. And it's the exact same thing here. You couldn't see a damn thing.
Nope.
Here.
Fair.
But that's what I got from it, was the shotgun, because it boom, and then it cut, and then the things broke. And I'm like, that can't be coincidental timing, right?
Who knows? Now we're going to have to watch it again.
Yeah, no.
Okay then. Sound.
Yep.
You got nothing else on that?
Yep.
It's the usual sort of soundtrack wise. What I thought was really good was the boogeyman's voice and mimicking, because there was that scene where the older sister was singing to the younger sister to calm her down, and then when they were asleep you could hear noises from the closet, and it sort of, after a few times, it sort of became the mimicked voice, so you could sort of hear it learning. But then when it had that mimic voice, it still had that undertone that was unnatural, but not sort of, it didn't sound like something I've heard before. It was a different kind of tone to the usual like demon voice kind of thingies. So that was really good, the mimicking, and the way cool. They showed how it did it. Sort of.
It's almost like the Predator, the way it learns by sort of listening to people, and then it kind of plays it back.
Practices. So.
I thought the sort of the use of the sound from the closet was great. It was really impactful with that. Just like when the Lester goes in and is obviously having a fight with the boogeyman in the closet. And it's just like, oh, this feels really nasty. Like something bad's going down in there. And it wasn't like thud. It was it. It sounded like 17 guys having a fight in there, and I thought that was great. Because it's obviously throwing in pillar to post.
And then you did hear the noise change, and then it was like, oh yeah, I know what's happening.
Yep. Which is really cool. And as you say, using voices, especially in the surround track, as we use surround system, so having those voices coming from the back of us as well, that was really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Really good mix on that.
Amazing. Acting. No complaints, but nothing particularly special. I think the kids did well. Nothing stand out.
Yeah, I got the same. Good all round, but nothing really stood out.
Alright, move on. The villain, like we've said, a little bit tropey. We've seen this kind of thing before, but saying that, the design of the monster itself was really good. I really liked it, especially it's partly that you didn't see it for a lot of the time. You didn't quite get a good view. Even right into the end, I don't think you saw the complete
Not
visual.
properly, no.
But in that final sort of confrontation, where you see it's almost like hands coming out of the mouth, stretching it apart, and then there's a different face in there, and that's the real.
I think what I got from that was it was the mother's face.
I got that impression, especially from the sort of cold open scene where it was clearly mimicking the father, and it had the almost bloody looking arms.
Yeah.
And that was what came out as well, kind of thing. So I think
it was the look on the sister's face, because she was like, as if to say, wait, I know that face, and that to me, you couldn't really recognize it as the mother because you didn't really see the mother much.
But that's where.
But yeah, that's, and I think that's probably one of the downfalls, is because you didn't really see the mother much. You didn't get that association with it.
No, but excellent design.
Yeah.
Great.
That's sorry. It's a shame we didn't see much more of it. The hands come to the mouth, and obviously putting in the emotional weak of the unstable, as it were, was great. And I think that the father, in a sense, was almost like a part of a villain. He wasn't really listening, so he was almost giving the children to the boogeyman, almost like going, "Here you go. I'm not listening. You're not real. Have my children," almost that kind of effect, which is like, oh, okay.
But it sort of adds to the horror.
It's
that no one will believe you.
It's going back to Godless again, where the husband didn't want to believe that medication was the way to go for his wife.
So excellent, yes. And then visual. Obviously, darkness plays a huge part, and particularly liked the scene with the two girls at the psychiatrist's office, and they're using the flashing lights to sort of help the youngest to confront the fear of the dark. And every flash, you can see the creature moving and getting closer. And the girl's acting in that scene, to go back to acting, with the sheer terror in her face, was actually really, really good.
And the use of the red light as well, that made it feel even more tense, because red's usually the colour of rage. So that was an interesting choice of colour on that one.
Interesting, yes. But there was an awful lot of that. Lights go on, you can't see anything. Lights go off, lights back on, it's there. Or the two pinpricks of light, which sometimes are eyes and sometimes are not. So
it kind of kept you guessing, so.
I quite like the visual stuff.
I mean, that's you pretty much got the same thing. It was a good use of the dark. And those little pinpricks for the eyes were great. I thought that was really good, really well done. But there was unfortunately, because you didn't see the creature fully, you couldn't really grasp the full visual work on it. I think it was obviously CGI.
Yes.
There might have been a point where it was possibly part costume or part practicals, especially with the hands like coming out and grabbing. That would have been like gloves or whatever you want to call them.
Hands would have been real, and when it was after it got shot, that was probably a model on the floor for
I'd imagine so.
But
again, because it's so dark, you didn't really see much of it, which is a shame. It kind of takes away from it a little bit.
But I kind of get why they've made that choice, because it is sort of the unknown and the darkness kind of thing.
No, I get that, but it seems we're rating visuals. If you can't see anything, it's going to get a bad score, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Cool.
Awesome.
Last thoughts on that one?
Really enjoyed. I'm hoping I sleep tonight. Going to be checking the cupboard doors a lot. All right.
Okay, so we've got 8 more films to go. We're going to watch those over the next few days, and we'll record the next few days, and obviously this will go up after part 2's gone up.
Yes.
We're not going to tell you what they are, but as it stands right now, the brackets are here. So as it stands right now, I don't even remember the brackets and what's going off against what.
It's a mystery for us as well.
I'll know when I'm editing, obviously, because I'll be putting it up there for you, and I've already done the graphics for you, but there we go. Okay then, take us away.
Amazing, thank you so much for watching. I hope you join us next time for part 3 of this tournament horror thingy. Yes, there are 5. 3 of 5. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell to be notified when we drop new videos. Leave a comment below with your thoughts about these films, if you've seen them before, or if there are any that you're particularly interested to see.
Let us know if you have any recommendations. We're always on the lookout for good horror films. Doesn't necessarily have to be from 2023 though.
Because it's probably too late to stick it in this tournament by this point, so just general watching good stuff. Follow us on socials. Our link tree's in the description below, which will take you to Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter, where we put our weekly updates to show you what's coming up soon, as well as posts when we drop a video, so you are always up to date.
Cool.
So until next time.
Check under your bed, make sure the boogeyman's on there.
What he said. Bye.